My name is Gareth Stansfield. I'm a Professor of Middle East Politics and the Al-Qasimi Chair at the Institute of Arab and Islamic Studies at the University of Exeter. I don't collect titles, but I'm also the Director of Middle East Studies at RUSI on Whitehall in London. Starting today looking at the situation of the Kurds in Iraq from the perspective of what's happening inside the Kurdistan region. Arguably in Iraq all politics remain local, and the Kurds in Iraq the Kurdish leaderships in Iraq are concerned right now more about their own internal organisations than they are even with their engagement with Baghdad. Same for Maliki in Baghdad. However, the conflict that is going on in Iraq between Erbil, the Kurdish capital, and Baghdad is absolutely crucial for understanding the future of the Iraqi state. Those conflicts come down to two very linked questions. One is the question of independence of decision making in the regions, and especially in Kurdistan. The other question is related to the exploitation of oil and gas. The two are intrinsically linked and they come together in terms of sovereignty. Who has the right to make these key decisions going forward for Kurdistan's future, for Iraq's future, and how do these decisions mesh together? And so I'll be looking at the political strategies the Kurds have been taking in terms of federalism, in terms of building those components of the state that they would perhaps need if they were going to be even more autonomous or move to secession. And then looking at the economic dimension of this, which is control of natural resources, the ability to develop their own hydrocarbon sector independently of Baghdad, and crucially how revenue is then brought into Kurdistan or Baghdad and redistributed between the two areas. And ultimately try to unpick this idea of, are the Kurds the masters of their own destiny, as they seem to think they are, or are they still destined to be mastered? I think that we are looking at a trajectory for the Kurdistan region that would take it to being independent sooner than later. They are making significant moves now, not only economically, but in terms of building their national project, building their own nationalist project within Kurdistan itself, getting that accepted across the region. It is no longer a problem to talk about Kurdish nationalism in the setting of the Arab Gulf, for example, even in Tehran or in Turkey of all places. And so these are all political, economic, social, regional changes that are coming together around Kurdistan at this point that leads you to think that perhaps, they may be on the verge of achieving something very significant for themselves. There would still be fundamental problems for them going forward. If they were to achieve independence, they would be a landlocked entity. They would be very dependent upon Turkey as their key supporter. They would therefore have a single point of failure in terms of their relationship with Turkey. They would be wholly dependent upon exporting oil. There is a strong line of argument and evidence to suggest that perhaps the leadership of the Kurds, emotionally attached and drawn to independence as they are, still see it in their interest to remain part of a larger entity, a larger state, larger oil reserves, to have a smaller share of a bigger pie, all that sort of thing, and ultimately to have the security that being in the state of Iraq gives them, but have the economic independence they would have from controlling their oil reserves going forward. That's an interesting position. But still, if you push me on it, and I know you want to, I think the emotional side of this, the symbolic side, being the Kurds of history that secure their state, could be a temptation that this leadership cannot ignore.